Hello, friends. Tonight, we return to the hidden library beneath the river, place of long-forgotten stories, flickering light, and remembered truths. Let the water settle around you. Let the silence welcome you back, and let us drift deeper now. Library Beneath the River, Part 3, The Drought Halls. Maeve had followed the river's pole without knowing where it would take her. She dreamed of a library beneath the water, and when she stepped into the current, it answered, guiding her to a world of silent shelves and remembering walls. There, she met the archivist, a faceless figure who gave her a blank book that began to write itself. She met Jory, a scribe caught in the library's loops, a man who'd written one sentence too powerfully, and now lived among the stories that refused to end. And she had felt it. Some old story tugging at her, one she'd almost forgotten, but which hadn't forgotten her. Maeve walked slowly, though her feet made no sound. The corridor had narrowed, the walls pulling gently inward as though nudging her along. The current here moved slower than it had before. It swirled in thoughtful eddies that tugged at the hem of her clothes, but never with force. More like a cat brushing past your ankles just to be noticed. Jory walked a little ahead, his coat drifting behind him in loose folds. The glow from his shoulder lantern, no flame, just a steady blue shimmer, cast long shadows that moved even when he didn't. "Why are the walls closer here?" Maeve asked softly, her voice barely more than a thought. "The deeper you go," Jory said, "the more the library starts listening back. Some spaces grow curious, some grow careful." Maeve glanced at her surroundings. The shelves had grown taller, not just in height, but in mood. Each one darkened by time and damp. Their spines bowed slightly inward as though they'd taken in one too many stories and were reluctant to carry another. One of the books turned slightly as she passed, just enough for its cover to catch the light. She paused. Its leather was sea-worn and buckled. Along the spine, her name was written, Maeve, etched in tidy, hesitant lettering. It looked like her handwriting, or a version of it she hadn't used in years. She stepped closer. The book didn't move. It just waited. "Not yet," Jory said, without turning. "That one's still deciding what it wants to be. Let it finish thinking." Maeve lingered a breath longer, then followed him onward. The path widened again as they entered a chamber shaped like a bell. The walls curved up in gentle lines, disappearing into a high ceiling veined with cracks that glowed softly, like light filtering through river ice. The floor beneath their feet was smooth stone, but the middle of the chamber was sunken slightly, forming a shallow basin filled with gently swirling water. Books lined the ridged walls, each cradled in its own little alcove, some behind glass, others wrapped in cloth, their covers barely visible beneath the delicate folds of velvet. Some glowed faintly, some pulsed with slow rhythm, others gave off no light at all, but seemed somehow heavier than the rest, like they remembered something too important to let go. And at the center of the basin floated a figure, robed, faceless. The figure shimmered at the edges, as though it were being drawn in ink that hadn't quite had time to dry. Its robes curled in slow, deliberate motions, trailing shapes that never quite formed. Around it, a dozen books orbited gently, drifting in circles just beyond the reach of its outstretched hands. Maeve recognized the figure at once, not from any one detail, but from the stillness, the kind of stillness that fills a room before someone tells a story. The archivist. She stepped forward, the water in the basin parting around her like silk. The archivist turned, though it had no face to turn with, and tilted its head in welcome. "You have returned," it said. Not aloud, not with sound, but she heard the words just the same, landing in her thoughts like falling feathers. "The library remembers you." Maeve pressed the blank book closer to her chest. Something's changing, she thought. "Yes," said the archivist. "The forgotten story is stirring. Its ink has begun to move again." The figure gestured gently, and one of the floating books drifted closer to her. Its cover was smooth, black, and featureless, but as it neared, a title wrote itself across the front. "The Story That Was Misplaced." Beneath the title, in smaller print, a subtitle bloomed, also known as "Yours." Maeve felt the warmth of the book in her arms respond, a quiet pulse, steady as a heartbeat. "What happens if I read it?" "You'll remember what never was," the archivist replied, "and choose what might yet be." Maeve hesitated. "And if I don't read it?" "Then the library will keep holding the story as it has always done. It will wait for someone else. Perhaps another version of you. Perhaps not." The silence settled again, gentle, unrushed. She wasn't ready, not yet. Something in her, something quiet and protective, knew that to read the story now would be to name things she hadn't yet uncovered. Some truths need soft ground to take root, and she hadn't reached the deepest shelves of herself. Instead, she turned to the robed figure. "Want to know what's deeper?" she said. "What's waiting in the lowest stacks? You said there were others coming, that this isn't about just me?" The archivist inclined its head. "The drowned halls hold pieces of stories not yet recovered. Those who've entered them before have left threads behind. Maeve nodded slowly. Can I follow them? Yes, the archivist said. But know this, the books down there do not sleep. They will see you. They may open themselves to you. And not all stories want to be remembered. The archivist raised one long arm. A ripple moved through the basin, and slowly, in the far wall, a door appeared. Not a door of hinges or wood, but an opening shaped by the stone itself, like it had always been there, waiting to be noticed. Beyond it, a staircase, stone, worn by water, leading down. Maeve turned back once. Will I see you again? The library is always here, the archivist said, whether you are above it or beneath it. Jory gave a slight bow and stepped past her. Come on then, let's go find what the river left behind. The steps led downward into dimness. The air grew colder, the water deeper, and the light dimmer. Not darkness, exactly, but shadow softened by memory. The drowned halls did not look like the rest of the library. They were quieter, not in sound, but in presence. The shelves here were wider, their contents sealed behind layers of glass, metal, or shell. Some of the books had locks, others had seals. A few floated untethered, drifting lazily through the space like jellyfish. At one point, Maeve passed a book wrapped entirely in red twine, suspended in a cage of clear crystal. It pulsed faintly when she looked at it, as if recognizing her gaze. What's that one? She asked. Jory only shook his head. Something the library caught mid-sentence. It hasn't finished being written yet. Best not to ask too loudly. They continued deeper, following the curves of the stone. Twice the walls opened into small alcoves filled with furniture. Benches carved from old driftwood, soft cushions encased in velvet, a place for reading or resting, maybe both. It was in one of these rooms that Maeve stopped. At the far wall stood a pedestal, and, resting atop it, a book. Alone, untouched. No chain, no seal. It was open already, as if waiting. Maeve stepped closer. The pages were blank, but only at first. As she watched, a single word appeared on the left-hand page, drawn in slow ink. Welcome. Then another. We've missed you. Maeve felt a prickle on the back of her neck. She didn't remember this room, or this book, or this moment, and yet... Her fingers trembled. The blank book in her arms warmed. She looked back to Jory. but the doorway behind her was empty. Corridor gone. Only the pedestal, the book, and the soft current curling around her ankles. She took a breath and turned the page. To be continued. Look for The Library Beneath the River, Part 4, Books That Bite Back.